Welcome to a deep dive into something a little different today.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the intersection of faith and YouTube success
Mm.
and the enduring legacy of Sheikh Mohammed Mitwali Al-Sha'rawi.
Oh, interesting.
So, you might be thinking, what could an Egyptian Islamic scholar who passed away in 1998 possibly have to teach us about building a YouTube channel today?
Yeah, that's not the usual combination.
Right, and that's exactly what we're going to uncover.
Have
So we
it.
got some interesting source material here. We've got excerpts from a YouTube content plan that lays out a strategy for monetizing your channel using principles inspired by Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi. And to add another layer, we also have an academic introduction to a book about the Sheikh himself.
Wow, so we're going from like practical YouTube tips to like
Yeah.
deep scholarly analysis.
Yeah. So get ready to see how ancient wisdom might just hold the keys to modern online success.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive in.
Let's do it. So first, who was Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi and why is he still so popular?
Well, I can tell you from firsthand experience, when I was in Cairo, even almost a decade after his death, his image was everywhere. Like books, TV reruns, pictures in shops, like a household name.
Wow.
Yeah, he's considered the father of Arab television preaching. Huge popularity, not just in Egypt, but globally.
It's amazing how influential someone can be even after they're gone.
Yeah, and here's what's really fascinating to me. Despite all that, there's actually very little serious academic work about him.
Really?
Yeah, it's like this blind spot, this incredibly impactful figure, yet he's kind of slipped through the cracks of scholarly analysis.
So almost like too popular to be taken seriously by academics?
Maybe?
Interesting. So was he like difficult to categorize?
Exactly. He wasn't easily labeled as a modernist or a fundamentalist. And I think that's a key part of what makes him so compelling. He kind of navigated those complexities and appealed to a broad audience, a bit like successful YouTubers today.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to appeal to a broad audience if you want to be successful on YouTube.
Right.
Okay, so speaking of YouTubers, let's talk about that content plan we mentioned. It claims that integrating Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi's principles into your channel is like a secret to success.
Okay.
So they highlight three main principles: faith, perseverance, and self-improvement. Now, when we talk about faith in this context, it's not just about religious belief, right?
Yeah.
It's about like having this deep, unwavering conviction in your goals and your ability to achieve them. I think any aspiring YouTuber can relate to that. You have to believe in your vision, believe in your content, believe in your ability to build an audience.
Definitely. It's like that self-belief is the foundation for everything else.
Exactly. But how does that actually play out in like the day-to-day of building a YouTube channel?
Well, think about Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi himself. He wasn't just talking about faith. He was living it.
Yeah.
He faced opposition. People felt threatened by his, I guess you could say, modern interpretations of Islamic texts. He was even banned from preaching for a while.
Oh, wow.
But he never wavered in his commitment. He kept sharing his message,
Okay.
connecting with people.
So it's not just about saying you have faith, but actually like embodying it, even when things get tough.
Exactly. And speaking of tough, that brings us to perseverance, the second principle. I mean, building a YouTube channel is no easy feat.
Yeah.
You're dealing with algorithm changes, competition, constantly creating engaging content. It's like a real marathon, not a sprint.
Definitely a test of resilience. And you said Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi knew something about perseverance.
Oh, absolutely. Like, think about the 1980s. He had this incredibly popular weekly TV show on Quran interpretation.
Okay.
And he was really pushing the boundaries of, what was considered acceptable religious discourse at the time. His approach was fresh, engaging, relatable. It resonated with a huge audience. But it also led to pushback. Some more conservative scholars were wary of his methods.
So kind of like YouTubers who find a unique voice, gain huge popularity, but then face criticism because they're doing something different.
Exactly. And crucially, they have to figure out how to stay true to themselves while navigating that new landscape.
That's a tough balance.
It is. But Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi didn't let the criticism derail him. He kept refining his approach, honing his communication style, finding new ways to connect. Which brings us perfectly to the third principle, self-improvement.
Oh, right. He really believed in continuous learning and growth.
He did. Essential for success in any field.
Yeah.
And that applies so well to YouTube. I mean, it's constantly evolving, right?
Oh, absolutely. To stay relevant, you got to evolve, keep learning, adapt.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about seeing these connections between his approach and what it takes to thrive on YouTube today. It's not just about making videos. It's about understanding your audience, building a community, always improving.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the YouTube stuff, I think we need to, step back for a minute.
Okay.
And understand the world Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi was navigating. What was happening in Egypt during his lifetime? That might have shaped his approach and contributed to his popularity.
Well, the 19th century in Egypt was a time of huge transformation.
Yeah.
Especially in how people understood religious knowledge. There was a shift away from relying solely on the interpretations of established religious authorities and a move toward individual interpretation of the Quran.
So not just accepting what was passed down, people were forming their own understanding.
Yeah, and this was a radical shift, opened up possibilities, but it also created tension and debate. And that's the environment Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi emerged from. His approach to scholarship reflected those changing times.
Makes sense.
He was deeply grounded in traditional Islamic learning from Al-Azhar, which is the prestigious Islamic university.
Right.
But he also had this knack for connecting with everyday people.
So bridging that gap, the scholarly and the popular.
Exactly. Synthesizing complex ideas, but in a way that was engaging and accessible and relevant. He was an incredible storyteller.
Wow, almost like a prototype for the modern YouTube educator.
Right. Making complex topics engaging, accessible to a wide audience.
Okay, so we've got this fascinating figure, deeply rooted in tradition, yet pushing boundaries and captivating this massive audience. And now we're going to explore how this might hold the keys to unlocking success on YouTube. Ready to dig deeper?
Absolutely. Let's get into it. This is where it gets really interesting. Welcome back to our deep dive into Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi.
I'm really excited to unpack how his teachings can be applied to YouTube today.
Yeah.
It's just such a different world than 1980s Egyptian television.
That's what makes the parallels so fascinating.
Yeah.
They're unexpected,
Yeah.
but they're definitely there. The content plan actually starts with this quote from Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, although they don't give us the exact wording.
Oh.
But the point is, even his own disciples considered him relevant to the scientific and technological age.
Okay, so he was tech savvy. Did he have a YouTube channel back then?
Well, not quite a YouTube channel,
Okay.
but he really embraced television, which was the big thing at the time. He understood its power to reach people beyond the mosque, beyond the classroom. He even used visual aids sometimes.
Really?
Imagine bringing props onto a religious program.
He sounds like a real innovator. It reminds me how some YouTubers are pushing the boundaries with format, using animation, music, all sorts of things to make learning more engaging.
Exactly. And just like those YouTubers, he faced some criticism.
Really?
Yeah, some scholars felt like he was making things too simple, maybe even entertaining people instead of just focusing on serious study.
It's that tension again.
Yeah.
Balancing authenticity, but also reaching a wider audience.
Exactly.
Did Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi ever address those criticisms?
There's no mention of that in our sources.
Okay.
But what's interesting is the content plan argues that this is where faith comes in for YouTubers. Not just faith in your content, but faith in your ability to handle the ups and downs.
So how does that translate to practical advice for someone actually building a channel?
Well, the plan suggests, thinking of it this way, Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi was deeply convinced that he was doing the right thing, making Islamic teachings accessible.
Yeah.
That conviction helped him through the criticism, the controversies, even, the ban on his preaching.
Wow.
So for YouTubers today, it's about having that unshakable belief in what you're doing.
Okay.
Even when the comments are brutal or the views are low, it's about trusting that you have something valuable to offer.
Even if it takes time.
Exactly. And that ties in directly with perseverance.
Right. The second principle.
Yeah.
It's not enough to have a good idea or great content.
Right. You have to put in the work
Consistently.
even when it's challenging.
Which, let's be honest, is most of the time on YouTube.
It's true. The algorithm, the trends, it's a lot.
It can be exhausting.
I can. And that's where I find Shaarawy's example so inspiring.
Yeah.
He didn't just, rest on his laurels. He was always looking for new ways to connect, to refine his approach, to make his message even more impactful. He was a lifelong learner.
Which brings us to self-improvement.
Right. The third principle.
It's something we've talked about, but I'm curious how the content plan specifically applies it to YouTube.
Yeah.
It feels so broad.
It is a bit, but the plan frames it as being a student of your craft. Just as Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi was a lifelong student of scholarship. So YouTubers should be dedicated to continuously improving their skills,
Right.
whether it's video editing, storytelling, audience engagement, understanding analytics.
Yeah.
There's always something new to learn.
So it's about mastering the platform.
Exactly.
The nuances, always getting better.
And remember, Shaarawy wasn't afraid to experiment. He used humor, storytelling, even those visual aids we talked about.
To bring things to life.
Yeah. He pushed the boundaries of what religious discourse could be.
So the message for YouTubers is don't be afraid to try new things.
Exactly.
Step outside your comfort zone, find what works.
That's how you stand out.
It's such a crowded space.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons from Shaarawy. He didn't let tradition hold him back from innovation.
He honored the past, but embraced the present.
That's something we can all strive for.
Such a powerful idea. Okay, but back to the academic source for a sec.
Okay.
Did they touch on this tension between tradition and innovation? Did scholars have anything to say about Shaarawy's more modern approaches?
They did, yeah. The book intro highlights that Shaarawy was both praised and criticized. Some appreciate his ability to make Islamic concepts accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah.
While others felt he was oversimplifying things.
Interesting.
Or straying too far from traditional interpretations.
So like he was walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Trying to bridge that gap between the scholarly world and like the everyday lives of people.
Exactly. And that tension, that push and pull, is something a lot of YouTubers grapple with too.
Finding your own voice, your own style, but staying true to your values.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
For sure. Well, this has been an incredible conversation so far.
It has. We've explored some fascinating connections between Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi's teachings and the world of YouTube.
Yeah, unexpected, but insightful.
So much more to uncover. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the final part of our deep dive into this fascinating topic. Welcome back to our deep dive into the unexpected world of Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi and what he might have to teach us about YouTube success.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey so far.
It really has. You know, one thing that keeps coming up is this idea of Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi as a renewer. His disciples even called him the renewer of the scientific and technological age.
It's a pretty powerful label.
It is. It speaks to his ability to adapt, to innovate, to embrace new technology, but without losing sight of his core message. He was so grounded in tradition, but he also wasn't afraid to, like, push those boundaries.
Right.
It makes me wonder, what does it even mean to be a renewer today? Especially when it comes to YouTube.
Yeah.
The online landscape is constantly shifting. It demands this constant adaptation, reinvention. I think it starts with a willingness to challenge assumptions.
Okay.
To question the status quo, explore new possibilities. Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi did that by embracing television as a way to reach more people, using humor, storytelling, to make complex topics more engaging, not shying away from difficult conversations.
So it's not just about the latest tech or trends. It's about perspective.
Yeah, a unique voice.
A willingness to kind of stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. And I think it requires a deep understanding of your audience. Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi was so attuned to the needs, the concerns of the people he was talking to. Knew how to connect with them on an emotional level. Make his teachings relevant to everyday life.
That's so important for YouTubers. It's not just content creation, it's building community.
Fostering that connection. Understanding what resonates.
Okay, and that's where the principles we've been talking about come in.
Right. Faith, perseverance, self-improvement.
Yeah, they give us this framework for navigating the online world. Staying true to your vision.
But also being adaptable.
Responsive.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
How does faith, and I mean that in a broader sense, just religious, how does that translate to being a renewer on YouTube?
Good question.
I think it's about having that belief, that unshakable belief in the value of what you're creating. Even when the algorithm's not working in your favor, or the comments are brutal.
It's that inner conviction.
That fuels your passion. Keeps you going.
And perseverance.
Right. How does that tie in? Well, the online world is full of distractions, challenges, setbacks.
Oh, for sure.
It's so easy to just get discouraged, give up. But the true renewers, they have that grit.
That determination.
To push through.
Stay committed to the vision.
They see challenges as opportunities for growth.
Like stepping stones.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to learn from mistakes, adapt, evolve. Which brings us to self-improvement.
Right, that constant drive to be better.
Yeah. Refining your craft. Pushing your own boundaries.
Think about how Shaykh Al-Sha'rawi was always honing his communication skills.
Yeah. experimenting, never settling.
That's the spirit
Of a true renewer.
And I think that's a really inspiring takeaway for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Whether you're a YouTuber or not.
It's about approaching life with that curiosity.
Willingness to learn, to grow.
And that deep commitment to making a positive impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
What does it mean for you to be a renewer in your own life, your work, your own little corner of the world?
Yeah. How can you embody that spirit? The innovation, the adaptation, the belief, even in the face of challenges.
It's a question worth thinking about.
It is. And maybe by exploring these unexpected connections between this scholar from another time and the world of YouTube today, maybe we find inspiration to become the renewers of our own time.
I love that. Well, that's all the time we have for today. But until next time, deep divers, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep pushing those boundaries.
Happy diving, everyone.